Hi everyone, so this is part 2 of the first lesson, lesson 5.1. I'm going to use the last example we did in the video lesson. This is example 6, and I'm going to show you how to do an amortization schedule using Microsoft Excel. So you can see every single payment and kind of see how the interest paid and the principal paid changes. So I've just set up my spreadsheet very basically. I have the question written here, and I have each of the variables just like in past videos where I have each variable listed here just to keep it neat and tidy. What you'll notice here is all the variables I looked for in the examples from the lesson. So your payment number in this case, this is the amount you paid or the payment value we're going to calculate here. Then I'm going to look at the interest paid, the principal paid, and lastly, the outstanding principal balance after each payment. Okay, so I'm going to just run through the first part just like I've done in previous examples, and then we'll go through this table. So again, as a refresher, you bought a motorhome for $120,000 for your family, and interest is 6% per annum compounded monthly for 15 years. So I'm just going to start inputting values. I'm going to leave this value positive this time and do something different. I'll show you why I'm going to do something different when we get later on with formulas. So your present value is $120,000. Your nominal rate of interest was given as 6%, converting that to a decimal is 0.06. Your number of compounding periods per year, okay, it's monthly, so it's 12. Your periodic rate of interest, in this case, is equal to J divided by M. I'm just going to enter that in. Your length of your investment is 15 years. And your total number of compounding periods is again equals the length of the investment multiplied by the number of compounding periods per year. So now we're at our payment. And again, just like we've done in previous examples, equals PMT. Actually, before I do that, equals, I'm going to put a -1 multiplied by the formula. And that's so that I can get a positive value. You'll see why later on that I did that. So -1 multiplied by your payment. Okay, so I'm going to select that one. We start with our rate, so that's rate of interest. So we select the periodic rate of interest. Our number of periods, we select that cell, 180. In this case, present value we do know, so we can select 120,000. Our future value we don't know, so again, we can just type 0. And our type, all of our formulas in our lecture assumes an ordinary simple annuity, which is end of the period. So we can just type 0, end bracket. And you'll see we'll get the same answer that we did in the lecture, $1,012.63. Okay, and it came out positive because if you look at my formula, I wrote this -1 times the payment. Okay, so you can see that if you look up here. All right, so looking at our amortization schedule, I'm going to break this down by payment. So payment number 1, our amount paid is simply the payment here. So you just do equals and that payment. Okay, and what I'm going to do is if you want to lock something in place, I'm going to end up dragging these cells down so that I can populate the formula rather quickly because we have 180 payments. So if you want to lock a cell in place, you simply can put the number sign both before and after the letter of the column. Okay, if you do it both before and after, it locks it going up and down, so locks it in the row orientation and left to right. Okay, so the row and column orientation. All right, our interest paid is simply, remember, in this case, it's equal to, because it's our first payment, the present value multiplied by our periodic rate of interest. So again, you'll see $600. And our principal paid on this, remember, is equal to our payment minus the interest that we paid. Okay, so what that means is our outstanding principal balance is equal to our present value minus the principal paid because it's our first payment. All right, and we arrive at our first set of payments. All right, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the second set of payments, which will set up the remainder of my cells. And then I will show you how you can drag and drop that down in this case, because we're doing it for 180 payments. Okay. So one trick for doing consecutive numbers like this is you can type in equals and you can select the cell above it plus 1. Okay. So that means 1 plus 1 gave us 2 for this payment. Again, our amount we paid, I'm going to use the same cell. So equals this cell. And again, I'm going to lock it. And you'll see why when I do a drag and drop. Our interest paid this time, okay, is equal to our outstanding balance, which in this case is $119,587.37, multiplied by our periodic rate of interest. And again, when I'm dragging these cells down, what happens is as I drag this down one cell, every single formula will also drag down one cell. So I want the periodic rate of interest to remain for every one of the formulas, right? Because I don't want it dragging down and multiplying by the wrong value. So I'm going to lock that number in place. In this case, it was cell E7. All right. So again, our interest went slightly down. So our principal is the same. It's equal to the amount paid minus our interest. And again, you'll see how it rose just a little bit. And that's because our interest paid went down. So our outstanding balance is simply the previous outstanding balance minus our principal paid. Okay. So now that we have this all set up, what I can do is highlight these cells that I want to copy. And you can kind of see this little square in the bottom right corner. Okay. So when you put your mouse just above it, you'll see this plus sign come up. And what that means is you can drag it and it will actually take each of these formulas, okay? And as it moves down a cell, it will change the values in here. So in this case, if we look at this cell, I have C14, which is this, minus D14, which is this cell. So when I move it down one, okay, so I'll do one example where I shift it all down. What it did was it moved those corresponding formulas down one as well. So now it's C15 minus D15, okay? And that allows it to just automatically adjust each one of these formulas. As you can see, the first formula, it again added 1, but it added it to the previous cell, right? Because in this case, it said B13 plus 1. So now if you move it down, it's going to want to use this cell, which is B14. Again, it adds 1 as you drag it down. So the benefit of this is I can highlight these, go down to this bottom right corner where this plus sign shows up, and I can hold my left click down and just drag all the way down as many times as I want. So you can see as my rows go down, I'll stop at this point. Okay, you'll see I went too far, right? Because we only had 180 payments. So I can simply just delete these cells. All right, but what it did, we'll go all the way back up to the start, but what this did, all right, is it dragged each of these formulas down. So it redid the calculation each time. And as you can see, the outstanding balance continually decreased. And the interest continually decreased that you paid for each loan, while the principal continually increased. So as you get further and further into your payments, let's go to about halfway through, payment 90, you can see that your interest paid was $369.44, but your principal now is far higher, $643.19. Okay, so it's actually starting to approach double the interest paid. And that makes sense because the amount you have remaining on your loan at this point has continually gone down. It's $73,000 versus the initial loan of $120,000. So this is helpful because you can actually build this amortization schedule using this basic principles. And you get to the end where you get to payment 180, and you'll find that your balance goes down to 0. Okay? So again, just going back to that, I'm just going to make this now, show you kind of a couple steps how I make it look nice. I can highlight these cells and go up to the top and select bold. I can click on one of these cells. If I want to make these all financial, I can click each of these cells and make it financial. Okay, you can see that it made this cell too wide. So in order to fix that, okay, you can go up and you see how you have an arrow going left and right. You can double click and it will automatically size the column to be what you'd like. Similarly, if I want to center every one of these to make them look nice, I can highlight them all and press Control, Shift, and the down key. And what that does is it goes down as far down as it can go where you still have some kind of text in the cell, in this case numbers, and you see how it stopped automatically at the bottom cell. So now I've highlighted all of those cells, all right? And if I want to center them to look nice, I can just press the center and it will center each one of them. I can also do the same thing where I highlight these, press Control, Shift, down, and if I want them all to be formatted like the first cells I had, which was for financial or accounting, I can simply select this number sign here and it will adjust all of them. Okay, those are just small tweaks to kind of make your spreadsheet look a little more aesthetically pleasing. So that was the only thing I wanted to show you on here. Again, this is all, this first calculation is all from previous units, but this new amortization schedule is handy to see how your payments change as you get further and further along. Again, these can be developed for other items like mortgages as well. So I hope you found this useful. Again, if you have questions, please send me an email.